Hello to all our viewers out there. We hope you are all Flamborough Heritage Society members. This video is a recording of our January 2023 public meeting. I'm Megan, the Heritage Society Vice President, and the reason you're listening to me for now is that we had some technical issues until a short time into the presentation. You'll see and hear Nate Brown soon, but I'll be guiding you through the first slides. Nate was originally scheduled to talk about the restoration of the former East Flamborough Township Hall March 27th of 2020, but I think we all know how the COVID pandemic affected our everyday lives. We're so glad that Nate can finally present on the topic, although inclement weather has brought us together by Zoom rather than in person. The building at 25 Mill Street North, built of locally quarried limestone, has served numerous purposes over the years. This first slide highlights the three main roles of the building, but the hall has played an important part in the civic and social life of the village of Waterdown and the surrounding area. The hall was the location of Waterdown's first library, hosted annual services for the Anglican Church, was a voting station for local elections. The second floor was used by the Orange Lodge as a meeting house, and classes were held in the hall for local school children while waiting for a new school to be built in the early 20th century. We'll see some more historic photographs in a moment, but this is a good overview of the hall through the years. The former Township Hall is a distinguished and important example of the fine quality attained in the public architecture of prosperous Ontario towns during the mid-19th century. Far grander in scale than its counterparts in other areas of Flamborough, it does not overwhelm the neighboring stone buildings, all of which suggests that there were superior stonemasons at work in the village throughout the 19th century. The central photograph is currently the only example we have showing the original portico. Let's have a look at some more historic photos of Waterdown, giving us an idea of how the village looked during the town hall's early years. I'll work around this slide clockwise. The upper left photograph shows Buchan's Bakery from around the beginning of the 20th century. It was located on the north side of Dundas Street near Memorial Hall. Like many other buildings in Waterdown, it housed numerous businesses, including a hotel and a meat market. Some may remember it as Antiques Plus. You'll recognize the next image as a photo of the Township Hall seen on the previous slide. It's quite the impressive photo of the Crooker store on the right side of the slide. The store was lost to one of Waterdown's many fires. It once stood on the northeast corner of Main and Dundas Streets. The next photo, although cropped, shows a group of Waterdown boys in front of Metzger's barber shop, which also housed the Waterdown Library circa 1900 to 1905. That building would later house River and Kitchens and is currently being transformed back into a barber shop. Finally, the small photo on the bottom left is a view of Cummins Drug Store and the Bell House and Tower circa 1910. The village bell tolled at the start and finish of each workday, as well as alerting residents of emergencies. This section of Dundas Street was purchased for the purpose of building a community hall, and that bell is now mounted in front of Waterdown's Memorial Hall. This slide highlights some of the material on our portable display, available for viewing in the Browns foyer. It includes a rendering of the aforementioned portico, as well as plans for the hall. While the hall is quite grand in scale and features fine masonry, the design is quite a simple one. Two halls on top of each other. Note the pillars drawn in the plans. Nate will be highlighting those later on. Funnily enough, town halls being repurposed into community libraries is nothing unique. These two examples, built in the same era in Athens and Lincoln, are extremely similar to Waterdown, though they lack the central window on the second story and the cupola. The Lincoln Town Hall also hosted a Masonic lodge in its second story hall. The next few slides will highlight the hall as it was when renovations started and what it looks like afterwards. The image on the left is how I remember the hall as the local library. The doors are utilitarian, and I have a vivid memory of a piñata hanging from the tree near the ramp and subsequently being destroyed as part of a youth reading club celebration. I also have fond memories of visiting the library, putting a stack of books on the counter that baffled the librarian. She wondered if I could read that much before the due dates were up. I rarely, if ever, had a fine. We often tell tales about Marin and her haunting of the elevator, but crafty children could push a button and send the elevator up or down empty, to the amusement or horror of adults. On the right is post-renovation. The Browns tried to repurpose the returns box from the library, but it was eventually removed. Again on the left, a more utilitarian use of the hall. Metal door with safety glass in the windows. While not exactly attractive, it served the purpose that the library needed. The doors on the right, of quarter-sawn white oak, are more in keeping with the original doors of the hall as seen in previous photographs. When the hall was put up for sale as surplus, it had definitely seen better days. The renovation and repurposing of the hall has honored the heritage of the building. These tired and peeling windows have been transformed during the renovation. Once again, another before and after shot. The date stone reads 1857. What was once white paint covering the windows is now linseed oil based. Linseed oil has great preservative properties and is water resistant, allowing wood to hold up to cleaning and weather much better. A little before and after of the south side of the building and how the windows looked after restoration. One more before and after of the window restoration. This also highlights how the exterior stonework was cleaned. I'll let Nate take over from here. Enjoy the rest of the presentation.
But yeah, a nice difference. And then a bit of a collage here of sort of how it ended up looking. And as you can see here, it took a few extra days, weeks, I forget, before we had the door go in. We actually wanted to see if we could fix up the weather vane compass up there. We couldn't. So that is exactly as it was. Door installation. Yeah, so this happened just a little bit. One of the last things that happened. So we exposed the stone on the inside here at the main entryway. This is before we actually put in the new uppers. But there's the two doors, handmade in Hamilton. There they are, just getting in place, and they're absolutely beautiful. But if you take a look here, these handles, nice and shiny brass, were actually from what we were told by the installer, the supplier. He had the job of getting new fixtures for Union Station, just a couple years back, right? When they did the big upgrade there and renovation in Union Station, Toronto. And he was allowed to take some of the old hardware, and he brought them to us, which is absolutely fantastic. The plates are new, but the handles are from the 1800s, which is really fantastic. And there's the door in place. Okay, so Mara.
Okay. Nate, if you could just forward the photos along when I ask. So my background is I'm a professional engineer and structural engineer and building code expertise. So they had me on the team to work for free and help them with the actual layout. What do we have to do to comply with code? What can we do knowing that it's an existing building? What would we expect to see behind some of these walls and ceilings and roofs, so that we know what we can maintain and reuse and what we would have to do new. So that was my role in the job. So my team, myself and my colleague, he and I, we prepared drawings and really came up with the design of the new building. So here we are up on the second floor, and one of the things that we really interestingly exposed is this sort of arch ceiling. And if you look really close where Nate's kind of holding that pointer, you can see that they have this sort of this artificial almost template along the edges of the original rafters. And that's because the original ceiling would have been lath and plaster, and it was like a nice barreled arched shape building. So that was something we knew existed, and we wanted to sort of pay a little bit of respect to that in the design. So okay, carry on to the next photo, Nate, and let's see. So yeah, this is just sort of a sample. The photo on the left side, we're looking up into the cupola. It's actually a working roof vent, which, you know, gets us some air into the attic, which is necessary. Unfortunately, it is also a direct line for the squirrels. And so, you know, we've learned a few things through this project. Obviously, the cupola is a big feature of this building. And if you look at this building from a distance and you look at the old original photos, the cupola is critical. However, it's a maintenance job. And as you can imagine, it's not easy to get to. So photos on the right, these are the walls that you saw in the library on the second floor. You can still see they even have some wording in them. But it was a very wide open floor area. The real charm of this building was the outside of it. There was not very much left on the inside that really was of historical interest. So the walls obviously are quite beautiful, but they were not exposed. This ceiling roof was quite beautiful, however, not exposed. We threw the idea around of, is there any way we can try to keep this, but not without insulation, you can't keep it. So we toyed around a lot of these ideas to what could we maintain and what did we have to get rid of. But so this is how it basically looked once all of the inside, as we know it, was demolished. So, okay, carry on, Nate. So here we are looking on the left side. Some of you might remember on the second floor, there was washrooms out the front. And if you ever used the ladies' washroom, men, I suspect you never were in there. There was a window in there, but you can see the arch portion of the window at the front was actually within the ceiling space. So it was just covered with insulation and with plywood at the inside. So one of our major focuses again was to try to expose that window. And like I said, the charm of this building was the outside. And so, you know, if you think about the jewelry on the building is the windows, and Nate explained a little bit about the windows, but we painstakingly, well, our contractor painstakingly restored every single window. That was absolutely a restoration. It wasn't a try to replicate new, it was a restoration. Now, the only thing we did is, yes, we took off the aluminum storm windows and we built new wood storm windows. And at the end, I can tell you a little bit about what we learned. And one of the things we learned is, I think our contractor put the storm windows in upside down. And it's one of those things that drives me crazy every time I go by it, but you may not notice, but you will now. So, okay, so this photo that we're looking at on the right-hand side, remember Nate noted those two columns. So when the library was built, those two columns were removed, and the columns actually support the cupola, because the cupola breaks up the major beam at the roof peak. So it supports those, and they used to carry on to the first floor and then carry on. There were columns down in the main floor too, but instead they put a great big huge steel beam in, cut the columns, and they're just sitting on top of that steel beam. So that was exposed. That was one of the things that we did not know was there when we demolished it, and we had to make some minor modifications as a result of that change. Because we were expecting the ceiling to be able to be higher in that area. We wanted to go right up to the top of that window, as you can see in the background, but that steel beam, which was done by the city back in 1979 or whatever it was, affected our ability to expose that window as much as we wanted. So you'll see, we made some changes. You can also see a hot water tank there hanging from the rafters. We changed that. There are no longer hot water tanks hanging from the rafters. So, okay, Nate, carry on.
Yeah, I'm just going to add, so
yeah.
Just to be clear, it was yeah, it was a funny thing for us. We couldn't get our heads around the fact that they built it so that the top of that window, was blocked off. That beautiful big curved window, a very distinct, feature of it. And indeed, the whole front. And Lynn, you remember this very well, or anybody that had been in there a number of times when it was the library. But really, the whole front, there's a nice big beautiful big window in the stairwell, which really no one could really benefit from or enjoy the view out of. This was blocked off in the ladies' room, and then the men's room had another window, which, yeah, it was just crazy how they, anyway, some of the decisions. So you'll see what we did in a little bit to change that. Okay.
Just
Yeah, so the decisions were
to throw
obviously-
something out there, the renovations that were done to make the library in the Waterdown Centennial year 78, 79,
Okay.
that was actually designed by Arthur Wallace,
Oh.
who was a historical architect who did
Huh.
a lot of buildings around the area, and his works are actually in the public archives in Ottawa.
Cool.
Geez, well,
I wonder if this one's
it
in
was
there.
very functional. It was very functional, and it probably met the needs of whatever the municipality wanted at the time, right? So, yeah, so scroll back, yeah, see Nate. So then we exposed that window and said, okay, let's keep figuring out what we can do, knowing that this steel beam had to stay in that place. So, okay, next slide, Nate.
Oh, yeah. So this is where I was I threw this in there to come back to but we spoke to it. But again, just to be clear, you can see the two columns here stubbed off, right? But yeah, we figure that these were a pretty distinctive feature when the building was built, because they're showing it as on both floors. So those columns, were a feature, right at the front of the building.
Mhm.
But yeah, we didn't know that.
So this photo on the left now is on the main floor. Again, you can see that there's nothing special about the framing of this floor. It was an open web steel joist and a steel floor pan. Maybe it was wood framing, probably originally. I can't imagine it. Obviously, wasn't what we see now. But again, it had quite nice high ceilings though in that room, and obviously there's lots of headroom on both levels, so we were able to sort of use that, and because it was steel, we were therefore able under the building code to get away with not installing a fire resistance rating on the floor, which we would have had to do had it been wood. So that was kind of an advantage on our part. You can imagine this restoration was not cheap, and places where we could find good ways to, penny pinch a little bit, we appreciated. So this was one of them. So, and again, this is this ceiling on the second floor that we've already shown. So, okay, next photo, Nate. Yep, wide open floor area. This is very much take the ceilings out of the original library, and this is what you had. So the windows were there and all maintained, beautiful, nice, deep windowsills, which we wanted to be sure. We knew that these walls were insulated, but only insulated with maybe 2 inches of just that white beadboard insulation, which has very little insulation. So not only did we want to sort of maintain some of the, conserve some money, but we also wanted to make sure that the building was more energy efficient than it was before we started. So, okay, next photo, Nate. So here's just a few little things. We did major plumbing work to get some more bathrooms in. We did put a large barrier-free washroom in, and we put 2 additional washrooms in. It's now used as an office space, so every washroom is individual. There's no stalls or anything like that. When we were putting in this plumbing, unfortunately, the hydraulic line for the elevator got cut, but our contractors absorbed that under their own insurance policy. We did not have to incur any additional cost for it, but it was kind of an unfortunate thing that happened. all new HVAC equipment, all new, which was done by a local contractor, Flamborough Air, Ivan Laking. I don't know if any of you know him, but he came in and helped us out and did all this work. So, insulated the stuff on the upper level, on the main level. There it is. You can see it's sort of getting started and going in. All that upper level stuff is insulated. So the upstairs particularly is really nice and cozy. We have one heating issue a little bit in the downstairs, but I can talk about that afterwards on just what we learned during the process here. So, okay, Nate, carry on. Okay, Nate, do you want to talk about the main foyer here or?
No, keep going.
Okay.
I'll chime in if there's, yeah.
So the photo in the middle is when you walk in the front doors now, and that's our main lobby. The elevator is to the right of the middle photo, and we have a new boardroom to the left. The stairs that you see on the left side photo, you actually walk in through the wooden doors and you immediately have that stairwell to the upper level. That's a spot where we decided to expose some of the stone there. You can tell that the stone was functional at the time. There's wood strapping built in there, which probably at the time was a bit utilitarian. It was what your lath and your plaster was supposed to be attached to, but we liked the look of it and decided to expose it in a couple places. We learned that keeping it exposed makes the room a little bit colder. For sure, there's no doubt insulation matters, and there's no insulation in a couple of spots because of keeping that wall exposed. But we feel it's worth it.
And even though it's, I mean, is it a full 2 feet? You think, Mayor, thick the walls?
Yeah, the wall is it? I think it's about 18 inches thick. The wall is probably about 18 inches of stone thick. So you can imagine when that mass of stone gets hot, it warms the place. When the mass of stone gets cold, it takes longer to cool the place. So, sorry, it takes longer to warm the place.
Lynn, again, I expect that you'd recognize and appreciate that this map, which essentially I think still belongs to the archives, but you guys, sort of let us keep it, and we left it in exactly the same spot, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right?
I think it's close. I think it might have been on the front wall, but that map, if I go back to Arthur Wallace, that is the person who did that map.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
And he lived up in the stone house just here on Main
Yes, he
Street.
did. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that center photo here, like I said, you walk through the wood frame doors, and then you're into a vestibule with that stair, and then you go through the next steel doors and you're into the lobby. So the elevator's there. The white door is our new big washroom. The brown door with the glass is the law firm's main entrance. And then we've got quite a nice big boardroom on the left side, which we'll show you. It's out in the front corner. So this is the entry into the lawyer's office. We don't have very many photos of the lawyer's office on the inside, but it's a functional space. I think we learned a few things from that too. We probably tailor-made that too much to what they wanted at the time, and it's not as flexible as they might like that space to be now, but it's quite beautiful, but maybe not as flexible as they ultimately will need it to be. So, okay, next slide. Okay, so here's our boardroom, and this is just after the glass went up. You can still see the caution, don't walk into the glass little stickers. These are the walls we exposed in this room. They're very beautiful. It's a breathtaking room, actually, when you look at it, when you come into that room and look and have a look at it. So we love it, but the baseboard heaters have to be on in this room, or else the room is not warm. So there is, certainly overhead forced air heating into it as well, but baseboard heaters are critical to keep that room warm. So
in the winter, it's actually very, very comfortable in pretty much 3 seasons, but and
even in warmer up to this year, it's probably not been too bad either this year, but when it gets really deep cold, that room can get cold. So okay, Nate. So this is just looking the other direction. We we probably over installed cabinets, but I would not say that's a bad thing. Makes the rooms very useful. You know, they have events there sometimes, and sometimes the guys go there and play poker, and you know, there's a fridge and there's a sink, and it works quite nicely for them. So it's a beautiful space. So now, Nate, are these the actual things that are up on this wall? Yeah. These are still there. So yeah. So we got these made just, you know, to give a little bit more privacy in that room. The lawyer's office uses it a lot, so they needed the room to be a little less transparent. So we paid respect to the original name of the building, the East Flamborough Township Hall, and the age of the building. So
yeah, and this is the text that is, and we'll I think we've got a nice photo of it, but it was put up some, again, Lynn, I don't know, but maybe you do, as to when that East Flamborough Township Hall sort of sign was put up.
Keystone, yeah, when that stone was installed.
Yeah, because that's essentially what we tried to match here, even with the font.
Yeah, and that's not original. So then on the second floor, so once you're up to the second floor, so like, remember how I said we saw that barreled ceiling? So we spent considerable effort to replicate this barreled ceiling where we could. And the drywall people, I can't say enough about them. They were artists up there. We had angled walls and arched walls, and, you know, little wind lights in all these spots. And so they did a really beautiful job. I have to say they did an amazing job. So that's just one of the in progress photos. And again, you can sort of see the that front window that was important to us. So now we're looking into that little boardroom, office room. So you can see the steel beam is exactly basically in front of that window, which is why we couldn't have, the steel beam runs across there. So this is what we had to do. We had to drop the ceiling there and then raise it up again at the window. But we felt that window was worth it. So we kind of framed that window with the ceiling, and we're really happy with the way that room looks. And then on the right side, you can see Nate also. Nate, maybe you can talk to this and how you got this made and where it came from.
Yeah, so again, similar to the boardroom, the main boardroom downstairs, we wanted some, you know, sort of a bit of privacy, a screening through through the window wall, essentially. And just FYI, we don't have pictures of all of the offices up and down, but all of them have big windows. If not, they have a windowed door in all of the, whatever it is, 12, I think, office spaces or rooms that are in the building. But yeah, so what we landed on here with the help of Lynn again was, and I'm going to go to it next here. I think I can go to it next. Yeah, here it is. Could anyone, Lynn doesn't count, or the Browns, could anyone either guess or tell me what this is, what this is an image of? It's a panoramic, and it was from 1900, I believe. And it was, I think, three pictures taken and kind of put together. Anybody want to guess? You probably have to unmute. Does anybody recognize this? This you probably can. Anybody?
It's the Waterdown station. It's the bridge across Highway 5 on the right, and Vinegar Hill, going up to Vinegar Hill.
Nailed it. Yeah. And this is Vance. This was the Vance home. And
okay. Yeah.
Okay. And let's see. I'm going to zoom in again. Yeah. So here is it Union Cemetery? Union Cemetery, I think is the name of it, up in here.
Union Cemetery up on Margaret Street.
Right. Thank you. And the rail track, the rail line is now in here, but there's Grindstone Creek. And that is indeed the Highway 5 bridge. This home is still here with its twin peaks. And why we chose this is that this is essentially 100 meters from the front of this building. That was the view. That is what is out in front and down the hill. And so when you look out this window, which is actually kind of high, so it's not super easy, but that's the view you get. You see the bridge, you see that house. The Waterdown South station is what the Vance home became, the Waterdown South train station. And yeah, and so it was like, man, that's perfect. Like if you were to look 23 years ago, and you were standing right there, that's what you would have seen. And it serves a functional purpose of privacy.
Mhm.
Joan, just keep
Cindy, you have your hand up. Did you want to tell us where it was, or do you have a question or a comment?
I see. Yeah, Cindy, you've got your virtual hand raised. It's fine if you don't have anything to.
Nice here. We think the barn in the background was one of the Allen brothers. They had an apple orchard up on the hill. That's why it's called Vinegar Hill.
Back in here.
Yep.
Cool.
And also one of the Saul relatives, he's the guy with all the glass plates that Jonathan and Stephen have. They had a place up there too somewhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool image.
And the Eager house is the inspired house.
Over here.
For over
Here.
40 years at the Scotty's Tournament of Hearts. Did you know Celebrity Detergent's fragrance disappears in the dryer?
Neil,
Down
can
the
we get
wash
you to mute, please?
Washer and dryer for freshness that lasts
Yep.
6 times.
Thank you. I
Not the
see
leaf
somebody
can.
said they're not seeing the slideshow. Are there others not seeing the slideshow?
Oh,
Connie. Is everybody else seeing the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay, Connie, I'm not sure what's up.
I must have unpinned something. Thank you.
Okay.
oh, that's a bummer. Oh well, we're recording it, we think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Um,
yeah, so that's the view that you might see if you look out that front window. So that's kind of cool, and thank you to Lynn and Nate for making that happen. So we're actually on the second floor now. We're looking on the right side photo. We're looking into that boardroom before the actual
The vinyl or
the vinyl got up. On the left side, and if I can just talk for 1 second about the design, the building is quite narrow, and we really wanted to maximize the number of offices. And, you know, these being financial planners and also lawyers, private offices were important to the users, to the future users. So we decided that the windows were beautiful and large, but there were not enough windows to actually give an office every window. And so in order to get the light into the center portion of the building, which is where all the offices are, we put glass walls in the walls of the offices, and they share the light from the windows. So that was thought about. We tried backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. How do we do the layout of this building in order to maximize the light for everybody? And I think, and Nate, you can speak to this, I think your office is along this side. I think most offices actually have quite nice light. It's that there's one at the very back that has the glass door that you see that probably has the least natural light. But otherwise, I think the offices are quite bright and comfortable.
oh yeah, there is no doubt that was a huge win, a great decision.
Yeah,
It is,
yeah.
in fact, it's literally too bright. At times you can see we have some really nice blinds in there, but I like, so my office is sort of straight across here. There's 3, is that right? 3, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 1 at the back, 2 side by side here with these great big glass walls, basically windows, but they're full size. And we offered it up to everybody that's been, in these offices, if they wanted to do some tinting or, a similar kind of vinyl treatment or some sort of privacy. But in the end, it's private enough when you get down the hallway. So we've got it wide open, the view. from within the offices and then out the exterior windows is just, it's fantastic. And actually, it's too bad that the orchids aren't in bloom here, but they are now. And they're totally thriving. It's actually Orchid Alley is what Nick calls this. He's
That's right.
the chief orchid gardener in the office. He's got some help though. But Marianne mentioned, I'll point out here, right? Marianne mentioned that we kind of we put a lot of cabinetry in. This was meant to be kind of a multi-purpose room, whether it be a client meeting room or almost like a lunchroom or kind of a break. We wanted it to leave it accessible because it is, that big window, that central window is there. So we wanted to keep it, kind of as a public room. As it turns out, we kind of are overflowing with staff and tenants. So it's actually a private or personal office now, but that's generally going to be, temporary. It'll probably be a couple of years maybe that this person's in there, but we'll bring it back to being more of a private a shared space.
Okay. And I'll let Nate talk to this, but we did keep the elevator and just we kept the elevator because we think barrier-free access is important. We kept the ramp at the front because for the same reasons. We have 2 large barrier-free size washrooms, one on the main floor, one on the second floor. And we gave up some working space in a building that's not that big. It's only 1,400 square feet per floor. So it's not really a huge building, but we felt that was the right direction and the right way to go. So
and plus Mrs. Brown, Mirren,
not me.
right. And so you guys, I gotta think you've heard the story, but indeed there are goings on in the building. The elevator in particular is busy, and not with our clients, and so but there has been absolutely nothing, whatever, no negative sort of activities. It's all been very benevolent. It's been so we are friends with the ghost, or all the ghosts, plural, if that's indeed the way it is. But so in part of that though is because we were a little spooked. We didn't want to change the interior of the elevator, so that is still the 1970s paneling, fake wood paneling, and it still smells like the 1970s in there. But I think actually we're getting close to making a decision on some upgrades there. So hopefully that doesn't affect anything, and we'll see if we can consult with Mrs. Brown on what she'd like to see in there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So couple years after we did the main renovations and restoration, so here's the steps were in tough, rough shape. Lots of cracking and there's spalling. The ramp was generally okay, but ugly. And not that the box is ugly, but it was not serving any purpose. We gave it a couple of years, couldn't figure out what to do with it. So we hired a fellow that we know from Tailored Living, and they do, one of the main things is putting that sort of nice flooring coatings in garages, and so that's what we had done. But to take that box out was probably the most work. It wasn't going anywhere without some major work and tools, and but you can see it was, it wasn't a solid pour, right? It was, not a great construction, but anyway, we worked with it, filled it in. There it is. In particular, Rob Wagner from Tailored Living, we replaced perfectly the railing there. The entire ramp was recoated, repainted, lots filled lots of holes filled, and it just makes a huge difference. I mean, like you could, yeah, anyway. And there's that sign there. Actually, I don't know if we got a better one, but there's the East Flamborough Township Hall. Yeah, and the cupola was 2020, late 2020, and we bit the bullet on getting it fixed when the squirrels were getting in, and then they were getting in, actually, I forget how, but they were getting into actually the building space, not just the attic space they were getting through. So, but you can see there's plenty of spots where they were getting in over the course of generations and generations of squirrel families. But we even, again, it's a heritage building. We respected that in every way we possibly could. This, we consulted on what wood would be appropriate. And I think we ended up with red cedar for this. I believe they used linseed oil based paint to get it finished. Slight modifications to make it a little bit more convenient, but like to get at it next time. But yeah, there's the beautiful finished couple angles. Actually, we got a great video of it, a drone video of it all around when it's finished. It's really quite beautiful. But that was a big job, almost 2 weeks with a huge boom lift truck. Yeah, it was a big job. And then literally within days, the squirrels started trying to get their way back in there and chewing through actually some of the slats. You can't, anyway, the slats at the front, they chewed their way up. We don't know if they actually got in. We haven't heard them. So we think that the mesh that we put in, the wire mesh, has stopped them. Yeah, we're getting near the end here. So awards and recognition, we got them. So here they are, but it did get great notice, more than anything, and hearing from folks like Lynn and the rest of you and numerous others, including many of our own clients, have voiced their appreciation and how nice it is to have the building looking and feeling and operating actively and sort of renovated and restored with some respect. So we're proud of that. I mean, there was really no other choice really for us. It was the right thing to do. But yeah, that's it. And again, you can see here, where that they started with that portico out the front of it, but there's not many pictures of it. So that's that's it. Does
Hey,
anybody wanna-
Nate, as the non-silent silent partner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you mind if I just jump in and add a couple more flavors to kind of why we did the project?
Yeah.
So I'm Kate Bergsma. I'm Nate's wife. I don't know if you guys know, but between the Brown family, we have what do we have? 8 children, and Nick and Marianne and Nate and I live on Main Street, and our kids walk to Mary Hopkins, and we spent lots of time at the library. And so we moved to Waterdown to be part of a community. And so we thought it was pretty cool here. And when the building became available, I was the first one to say, oh no, this is crazy talk. But as we got into it, and really understanding that we want to be part of the community moving forward, it was an honor to be able to restore it and keep it within the historical guidelines and the heritage. So I just wanted to add that color, because although none of us grew up in Waterdown, we have another generation that has grown up in Waterdown, and we expect to stay here.
Yeah. Awesome. Any questions or any of the photos, folks, that you want to go back to? Or any thoughts on, like, I don't think anybody was alive to see the portico on the front of that building. But does anybody have any stories or memories of that they want to share with us? Because I mean, yeah, we've combed through a lot of stuff. I know Tidridge, he's got some stuff on the building, I think, in his book. You know, so there is some other history there. Oh, the tombstones. The tombstones. Did you guys remember the story of the tombstones? A couple of heads nodding, which is great. So the story goes that Alexander Brown, which was a total coincidence that the Browns were some of the early founders of the town. But he and his wife Mirren, when they passed, or when she passed, they put Marion on her tombstone. Maybe that was kind of, I don't know, Canadianized. But the story is that she came back. She was haunting sort of that decision, and wherever the tombstones went, or it had to be replaced. It was replaced with her proper name, Mirren Brown, and the I guess it would have been, oh, Lynn, you'll have to help me out, but some version of the tombstones came to the library and were actually stuck to the wall, mounted on the walls in that foyer, taken down very, very carefully. And in fact, before they were even taken down, because they were important enough, again, Lynn, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I forget the guy's name now, but from facilities, Hamilton facilities.
Mike
Sands?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a copy made. So they however they do that, he made a mold of the tombstones and kept them. I don't think it was because if in trying to jackhammer these things off the wall, when it was, the library is being moved, if they busted these things, they wanted to be able to recreate. Do I have that right, Lynn? Is that or close?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah, and so
I mean, they were pieces anyway, and they've been restored. So you have to really look carefully to realize that they were in pieces, but they look good.
Yeah, and you've got them now they are at the new library. Is that right?
Yeah, they're in the archives.
In the archives, yeah. Yeah, we actually debate because so Mike had offered. I don't know if it was his place. We probably would have checked with others too. But like we actually thought for a while maybe we should build out of the molds and put them back, but it just didn't seem to fit with kind of our it was a step a little too far, I think, is what we felt, given that we were in the life insurance and estate planning and estate administration business, and it wasn't a great fit. So we have not put them back up. Anybody else? Any questions?
Marianne, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is for Lynn. Is that building older than the building next to it, or was the Wesleyan Church older than that building?
They're within a couple of years of each other. I can't remember which is first, although I think it might have been the church.
I think that's right. Yeah.
I have a funny sort of quirk fact for you. You should probably get the picture of the front window of the library that says it's closed due to squirrels.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I
so
think
they've been dealing with this for years, is what you're saying? Yes.
That the picture of the squirrel closed due to squirrels was in Nathan's book. It might not be in this current edition, but it was. But we do have that. Yeah, I can send that to you, Nate, if you want.
That'd be cool. That would be really cool. Yeah. Well, and I've got all sorts of the guys that did the couple of sort of restoration and fix. They were up. It was 2 weeks because they also did the soffits and bit of fascia. There was holes all over, including some attempts at patching or meshing, because they were getting in all over the place. Actually, Nick, the first time around, did they not get in this corner before they even maybe got in through the cupola, right?
Yeah, I think that's right, Nate. They got in and I had a little photo of it. You can see like all the things that we discovered. That was, yeah, those corners were in really bad shape and they just opened right up into the attic. And I think there was wasn't there a story, Nate, where you guys walked or the lawyers came in one day and they're like, oh my God, you know, it's like a bad movie. Who has been in this in our office? And it was a squirrel.
Yeah, and stuff was knocked over.
Oh my God.
And
And
it got stuck in the boardroom and it was trying to chew its way out. There's actually like pretty significant chunks out of the wood, mullion,
Yeah.
between the panes of glass, right? That the squirrel over the weekend was, trying like crazy to get out, and then we cornered it and chased it out, and that's when we said, okay, we gotta
do something about this.
And unfortunately, we don't have any buddies with, whatever 30-foot boom lift trucks. So we actually had to rent it. You can actually see here. So this was 2017, but up here, I don't think I can zoom in anymore, but some of the slats were actually falling out. And by the time it came to 2020, there was 2 or 3 of them. And I think even the back door, there's a hinged access panel or door at the back of that to get in it. It was kind of cockeyed, but they did all of painted it all. We've had the eaves troughs redone, the shingling redone, and including, did we put some extra? We put extra, I think, ice and snow layer in there. Extra venting we put in. And I don't know if you can, I don't know if it's these windows, Mayor, that you were, unfortunately there was a mistake, and we had spec'd it out and asked that they match up the storm. So you can see these dark crosses here, right? The darker outside storm window frames. And so the window panes are bigger than the interior, but we wanted the storm window mullions to line up with mullions on the inside, even if they, not matching them exact number, but that got screwed up. And as soon as we put it in, the larger, cross.
It's actually on the second floor. The first level ones are right. It's the second floor. The top pane is not exactly even with the bottom, and they just the measurements, they built them upside down. So if it were built the other way, if it were installed the other way, they'd have been fine. But anyway.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where you get so far with it that it's it's like, okay, that one will just it's not a battle we want to fight. I don't know if you can see it. Is this the?
No, this is a lower
First
level
floor?
window still, I think, because the tops are smaller than that.
Yeah,
So
actually, you can probably actually see it here.
you can see it right there on the right-hand side, that the middle one doesn't line up with so.
Yeah, but it's not that bad, and they look fantastic.
Okay, well, any other questions or anybody, or shall we?
I think that's probably it.
That was
Okay,
great. Thank you very much.
Oh, there was a question.
Find one.
Missed the beginning of the presentation, but were you able to acquire funding from city or government grants for the restoration?
yes, we did. We applied through the city. We didn't get anything beyond the city grants, but the city was pretty good to work with. Judy wanted to support us. I mean, and I would say the Heritage Department, the number of receipts, and you have to get 3 quotes for everything. And you're like, okay, guys, you don't know how specialized this work is. It's not easy to get 3 quotes. And unless you get 3 quotes, you can't get the funding, and they won't give you parts of it. So it was quite a hurdle to get over to get the funding, but eventually we did get it. So the window restoration, there was very specific things, and it was all outdoor stuff that we got it for, because nothing on the inside was actually a restoration, because there was nothing really left to restore. So the windows, but we sourced to buy all new restored windows, and it was over $100,000 for that. And we ended up sort of paying about probably 60 or so to get the new storms built and the restored. And the city, we got about, what was it? Was it 25% we got, Nate, or something
think
of that
that's right.
cost
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, there was a couple of tiers, but
Yeah.
I think that's about right.
Yeah, you might get 25% on the first 40 and then it drops down as you continue spending. So, but we did, we were able to get some funding from City of Hamilton. And how long did the restoration take? I think we started in about May, Nate, and you moved in around Christmas time.
Yeah, it was December, yeah.
Yeah. So it was 7 months. We hired a general contractor for the work though, and they were well versed in getting trades, and they were pretty good to work with. And we answered questions quickly to make sure things rolled along as quickly as it could. And we, because of my involvement, I was able to get the building permit and hand it over to the contractor, which made a big difference. So the building permit part of it probably took another 2 months. And then we made sure that we had the heritage permits in place first, because, you know, if you know your lead time. So I would say from starting with heritage to the end of moving in was probably a year, but part of that, a significant part of that was permits too, so.
All right.
Okay,
That's great. Thank you very much. It looks beautiful. You guys did a great job.
thank you.